rocket at the frag grenade.
In the theater of war, brute force is often mistaken for inevitable victory.
You overshot it.
However, in the world of Bellum, there is a faction that doesn't just break the rules of conventional warfare, they weaponize the rulebook against you. And today, we're going to do a deep dive into the faction in Bellum, known as Al-Zalaam, translating to the Darkness. This faction isn't about holding territory. They aren't about head-to-head engagements. They're actually only about one thing: bleeding the enemy dry through a masterclass in Insurgent guerrilla warfare. Over the duration of the video, we're going to break down some, but not limited to, tactics, in-game mechanics, and psychological warfare that make up playing as or against Al-Zalaam a completely unique experience. We'll look at their hit-and-run actions and how they turn the very map itself into a hostile entity. To understand Al-Zalaam, you have to understand how they survive. Conventional factions in Bellum rely on support, like mutually supporting units, rally points, patrol bases, etc. An Al-Zalaam squad is designed to be able to operate independently from others, without any help, without any calls for reinforcements. They have the quickness, the agility, and the tactics to do so. As an Al-Zalaam commander, your first tactic is going to be area denial, and frankly, it is the strongest and the one you're going to be falling back to the most. You cannot outgun a conventional faction as Al-Zalaam. If they set up a support by fire with M240 Bravos, you don't attack the support by fire by risking manpower. Instead, you're just going to keep taking shots at them frequently enough and accurate enough to prevent them from being able to move from that support by fire position to actually go support the squads that need it. In doing so, you keep an entire weapon squad pinned down in some obscure part of the map, and not only does this take away from some of the conventional faction advantages, but it also plays a huge psychological role as well. Now, with that in mind, I want to move towards ambushes. There are plenty of pages and pages and pages of doctrine on ambushes, how to do an ambush, the kinds of ambush. You name it, there's somewhere out there on the web or a book that talks about ambushes. Now, what we're going to do instead, though, is instead of trying to give you a doctrinal class on how to conduct an ambush, we're going to tailor it to Bellum, because, like we all know, Bellum's a video game and not real life. So certain aspects of ambushes as a guerrilla fighter don't completely apply here in the game of Bellum. So with that in mind, remember, this is tailored toward a video game, and I know some of you who are high-speed, low-drag operators, you think you know exactly how to do an ambush, and that's fine. Good for you. Awesome. But remember, before you start typing on Keyboard Warrior about how this ambush that's explained to you is wrong, just remember, this is tailored for a video game. Okay, with that out of the way. So this, on your screen, is known as a kill zone. You don't kill the whole squad immediately. If you can, you want to drop the point man, and even the guy in the rear. This will create a moment of hesitation, a pause, a break in the enemy's OODA loop. At this point, you let the enemy scramble to figure out where you are and what they're going to do about it. Like I said before, this gets inside their OODA loop. There's more on this video right here. Now, this isn't just about destroying a squad, it's about taxing the enemy player's mental bandwidth. The ambush is a great tool to not only neutralize enemies, but, like we said before, the psychological toll it takes on them as well. In the video you're watching on the screen, essentially all we did was repeatedly ambush the enemy over and over and over again, to the point where you could tell that they were so fractured, there was no actual cohesive or coordinated effort in the maneuvers that they were trying to do. It got so bad to the point they kept pushing the same spot over and over again because they didn't know where else to go. You notice that as we're fighting the enemy faction, we're not fighting them head on. We're waiting. We're being patient. We find onesies and twosies. We pick them off here and there. We don't try and do large-scale pushes against entrenched enemy. Later on in the video, you'll see me try and charge a machine gun position, and it ends poorly for me. Now, with all that being said, ambushes are one of the things that you have to practice. You can't just say that I'm going to ambush but never actually practice an ambush. And if that means hopping on the training server, do so. If that means hopping in a different game and practicing there, do so. If that means watching more videos or reading up on yourself about ambushes, then do so. Ambushes are something that you have to learn how to do through practice. You can't just sit there and read words that are black and white on a screen, on paper, and then expect to know how to execute it, especially in a high dynamic, very fast-paced game like Bellum.
Say again?
So, what else about ambushes? Well, you have multiple kinds of ambushes, right? You have an L-shaped ambush, you have a V-shaped ambush, you have a linear ambush, you have a Polish ambush. All these different types of ambushes are just variations of the same thing. Engaging the enemy where they aren't ready for it, and you hit them so hard that they cannot recover. Once you're done, you leave, right? You don't want to stay there. There's a reason why you're ambushing them. You're not ambushing them because you know you're going to win. You're ambushing them because you don't know what you don't know. However, you are given an opportunity so you can take it. Or it could be something you pre-planned. But again, there's too many unknown factors for you to try and stay there after the fact, right? So I'm going to put a few references in the description that you can click to go read up more on ambushes. Please read them, analyze them, study them, and then implement them in your next training evolution, training cycle, or whatever group you play with, and then get good at them. Because it doesn't just apply to Al-Zalaam, this will also apply to the other factions as well. Alright, now enough about ambushes. We have to acknowledge something with Al-Zalaam. And that is that if Al-Zalaam is forced into a prolonged firefight, they're going to lose. More times than not, they're going to lose. The unit or the faction of Al-Zalaam simply does not have the resources or the logistics necessary to prolong these firefights. They don't have any body armor and they don't have a lot of ammo. That alone is enough for you to understand that you to get into a fight with Satyr or even Rangers, they have more ammo. They have the big guns. They have the body armor. You don't as Al-Zalaam. And you have to take that into consideration. So, what are the things that we also need to take into consideration? Well, one of those things is that you have to keep the engagement strictly on your terms. You cannot sit there and fight on the enemy's terms. Use the terrain to your advantage as best you can. You want to use something that a lot of people call the shoot and scoot mentality. You take a few shots, you move to a different location. You take a few more shots, you move to a different location. You take maybe one or two more shots, and you realize, okay, I've been here long enough, I need to leave. I report up the enemy's location, let them lick their wounds. Maybe even as they're licking their wounds, another squad from a different direction comes and hits them. The whole time, the enemy's just getting hit from all kinds of directions at random points, at random times throughout the match, and it's just so psychologically taxing. It is so demoralizing to be in a firefight, pick up casualties, to get into another firefight, take more casualties, and just have that rinse and repeat over and over and over again to eventually you lose track of who's down and people just start dying. And then you have to wait, you have to respawn, and all the way back into the zone. It can just be very difficult to keep someone willing to fight if you keep ambushing them over and over and over again. That's probably the biggest thing that you need to acknowledge with Al-Zalaam. No prolonged firefights. If you can manage it, shoot and scoot. Shoot and scoot. Shoot and scoot. Okay, so now we talked about shoot and scoot, and it's honestly terrifying. However, the hit and run isn't just a physical maneuver. It's also something that you could call a cooldown management, right? What do I mean by that? Well, as an Al-Zalaam player, you're more than likely going to know where the enemy's coming from, where other enemy units are, and have a decent idea of how long it's going to take for enemy reinforcements to arrive at your position that you're ambushing or engaging with that current enemy. With that in mind, you will be able to time your engagements. You'll be able to maneuver yourselves in a way where you can ambush a squad here, pull back, let a bigger fish come along, and then you fry that bigger fish because you use the smaller fish just as bait. They came to reinforce. Little did they know, as you were engaging, you planted an IED. You know they're going to come and try and pick up their homies. When they get there, you set the IED off. So that's just one tactic that I've seen people use. I've tried using it before. It's hard to pull off, but it can be done. Now, what else about Al-Zalaam? Well, another thing is that late game, right? In the late game, the match changes for Alzam. You have a player who has survived the entirety of the beginning of the game, say the first half. That means this player has survived the aggressive pushes from Satyr and the Rangers, which means they have a little more confidence. And this is also where the lethal phase of Alzam truly seeps in, and that's the psychological warfare. Because in Bellum, morale and just general vision of what the game should look like starts to get really muddy.
How are you guys looking on ammo?
As an Alzam player, if you know that you have been winning the fight and you've been constantly ambushing the enemy, slowly deteriorating at their manpower, you know they're starting to get demoralized. You know that they're having issues probably on their command net. They're probably a little bit of infighting. They're probably, getting divided against each other on what they should do. And that's a huge ego boost, and it starts to embolden you to make bigger and more aggressive maneuvers, which layers perfectly because in the end game, the enemy, Satyr and Rangers, are probably now being a lot more defensive. So it's almost like the perfect domino effect. Now, some might agree, some might disagree. Shoot me in the comments of what you think about that specifically.
Let me know when that RPG is ready.
Now, moving on a little bit more, Al-Zalaam doesn't play the map, they infect it. What do I mean by that? Well, they use IEDs. They can deny an entire area simply by putting an IED in the open purposely for the enemy to see. And therefore, the enemy is going to say, I'm probably not going to go that way. Or let's go around that, which will then canalize or force the enemy into a kill box for an ambush, like we talked about earlier, that they didn't know was coming. So using IEDs as area denial assets rather than just something you blow up is also a very viable option. Another thing, Al-Zalaam infects the map by initiating the ambushes. And I'm going to beat this horse dead. Ambush, ambush, ambush. That is your bread and butter as Al-Zalaam. Another one, making two men or even a fire team appear as if they're a squad, or more than a squad, simply by the shoot and scoot doctrine that we talked about. The hit and run tactics, which a lot of people think they know what it is, and then in theory, and then in practice when they try it, they get so sucked into the fact I need to left click, left click, left click, they forget that, oh, I'm supposed to shoot a few times and then move. Not shoot, 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 shoot. Oh, I finally got tagged, now I need to move. The other thing about this is that the fog of war really starts to show itself once you start to infect the map using some of the methods that we talked about in the last 10 seconds. You will slowly see the enemy become disaggregated, disorganized. They aren't as methodical or strategic with how they're pushing you anymore. And that's how you know you're winning. Now, with Al-Zalaam, this is kind of like the ultimate expression of guerrilla warfare in, I'm not going to say gaming as a whole, but within recent years of like the milsim, taxim space. You can utilize Al-Zalaam quite literally how they were designed to be used without having to worry about someone calling you out for quote-unquote camping or a coward for just shooting and leaving. It's interesting to see how a lot of people will take an unconventional faction and still try and play them conventionally. Now, whatever floats your boat, if that's how you want to play them, that's how you want to play them. However, I personally don't recommend it. Now, how else can you make this an ultimate expression of guerrilla warfare? How can you make this more artistic? Well, you can make every bridge a potential IED. You can make every window in a structure a potential ambush. Once you start to get into the mind of the other team, the conventional player stops playing to win, and they start playing to not lose. They turtle up, and the moment a conventional force stops moving, Al-Zalaam pretty much wins the match. The Al-Zalaam faction in Bellum is a masterclass in asymmetrical game design, and it forces players to completely unlearn everything they know about just traditional and conventional strategy and doctrine. Now, one thing you have to remember, though, is that you aren't rewarded for having the highest rates of fire or the biggest frontal assaults with Al-Zalaam. You're rewarded for patience, for misdirection, for understanding, for the psychological leverage you can put onto your opponent. You are the underdog by design. But if you have a competent Al-Zalaam commander, it can be one of the most terrifying entities in the game. They remind us that warfare isn't just about who has the biggest guns. Sometimes it's about who knows how to use the terrain the best, the shadows the best, your own playstyle against you the best. After all this, I would, again, love to hear about y'all's feedback in the comments. What do you think about the Al-Zalaam faction? How do you feel about Bellum in its current state right now? What do you want the next video topic to be? Anything, really. It helps the channel because it gives us engagement, interaction, but it also kind of helps give the channel a direction where you guys want to go, because with a game like Bellum, there's so many different avenues that you can take to try and actually cover, you know, all the tactics that you would want in a PvP match like the game is in and of itself. But with all that being said, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think. Feedback is a great tool to make these videos better. And until then, watch your step.
Alright, cover me. I'm getting intel off the bodies.
Hey, 6 has contact close. 4, we're pulling back.
1-1's clean, 1-1's clean. Enemy weapon squad destroyed.
Good shit, 1. 6 is down.
Good
Contact
shit,
to the
1.
west of 6.
We fucked them up over here.
Hey, move west, get back in that tree line. We're going to continue north. Their patrol base has to be somewhere out this way. That's game. Nice.
Hey, let's go. Let's go, boy. That's the guy.